Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OnlyLandFans show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Logan Swanson. Logan Swanson is a land investor, lender, and marketer. He started land investing with a $2,000 family loan in 2018 with his wife and business partner, Alyssa. Having learned everything the hard way, he enjoys helping other land investors create powerful disposition systems. Logan and Alyssa also have a land funding platform that combines the marketing tools of Prime Land Exchange with very competitive funding rates. Logan enjoys partnering on deals of all shapes and sizes as well. Logan, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. I got my Coke Zero. I'm ready to rock.
You are ready to roll. Well, I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. So excited to have you. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in doing land deals?
Yeah. So it all started probably, I would say I started getting interested in real estate around 2016. I've been just kind of slaving away ever since I graduated with a super valuable undergraduate degree in political philosophy. I was bartending, working in restaurants, doing construction work. Um, had three kids in pretty quick succession, and just realized I didn't have in my career trajectory really any way to provide a life of comfort or leisure to my family, and really no way to even save money. No way to invest, no way to plan for my future. It was always just kind of hand to mouth, no matter how hard we would try to save. Um, it would always be I'd get a few $1,000s stashed away and then the car would break down. It was just always this cycle of kind of living on the edge. Um, so I realized I needed to get into real estate, just from all the different people I'd listened to. I kind of did the whole sweep the internet, go listen to all the podcasts sort of thing. And I had no interest in flipping homes, even though I really enjoyed construction. I just knew it was so tough, especially in Dallas Fort Worth, where I live currently. And I wasn't comfortable working so far away. I couldn't even visit the property. Um, and then I just stumbled into land, bought in, listened to what everybody said. You can start with no money and get rich overnight. You just kind of blink your eyes and all of a sudden you're making 10,000 in passive income. And um, so I let it be a dream for a little while, but eventually I decided I was going to make it happen. I don't really know. I guess I do. I remember the moment I was sitting outside of this restaurant I was working at. I was working at this high-end steakhouse here in Dallas in downtown, and living like that degenerate server lifestyle where it's like 5 minutes before my shift and I'm sitting there scrambling to put my tie on and I'm listening to this podcast in the background. And I was like, you know what, I have to do this. I'm only getting older. I'm not a kid anymore. I was living this fantasy that I was a kid in my late 20s, with three kids and a wife. So I said, all right, I'm going to figure it out. I had a family friend who was in real estate. He owned a bunch of rental homes, a little apartment complex, some commercial property, stuff like that. And I just started having lunch with him regularly and telling him all about land. I was like, man, I keep hearing about land. You can make all this money in land. Um, and he's an older guy. He would look at me sideways like, man, you're dumb if you think you're going to get rich, buying and selling land. He just didn't get it. But finally, after a while, he's like, well, you know what, Logan, what do you need to get started? And I said, I need $2,000. That's all I need to get started. Um, and me and a buddy of mine from college, he put in $2,000. We did one of the guru courses, the Land Geek, and just started with desert squares in Nevada and Texas. Um, had to just be strapping and creative the entire time. Had a few lucky breaks early on, and just kind of been following the upward trajectory, trying to stay at the front of the pack since then.
Nice. And so, can you tell us about your very first deal? Do you remember that deal?
Yeah. Um, God, man, I thought I had roped everybody into the dumbest mess. So when I did the Land Geek course, they give you this little, I think it's like a quarter acre property in Arizona. I think just a tiny desert square in the middle of nowhere, and they gave it to you for free, and they said it was worth $3,000. And I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect. It's all we need to get started. Um, and I got that, and we were doing all the listing it on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and all this sort of stuff. And I marketed that aggressively for like 3 months until I finally found someone who was ready to buy it. And it was like 99 down, 99 a month. And this guy, bless his soul, he was probably very mentally unstable. He thought we were taking advantage of him. He thought he'd been taken advantage of in the past. He started sending us these long emails about how we were Satan and he can't listen to it. Just so crazy. And I remember how hard I worked to sell this land to make $100 a month over the next whatever 2 years. And this guy's literally calling me Satan in the process. And my business partner, who's an attorney, who listened to me and said, "Yeah, you can get rich doing this." He's like, what are you doing, man? What are you roping me into here? So yeah, that was the first one. Eventually, I think I just gave it away. Maybe I wholesaled it to somebody. I can't remember what I did. That was my first like transaction.
So it sounds like you didn't have the smoothest experience in your very first deal. So what what compelled you to want to try again? Like what was the next deal? What did deal two look like?
Um, well, I think I was kind of smart. I listen to a lot of people, and they're like, if you surround yourself with people that know what they're doing and how to do it, you'll be fine. So really, before I even knew much of anything about real estate, I started organizing a local meetup here in Dallas, Fort Worth, of which I had no idea at the time, but there was a ton of really high quality land investors, and no one had attempted to create a meetup before. So while this like crap show is going on in the background, um, I start meeting really cool local people, networking and hearing all about their successes and how they're all doing it a little bit differently. So it gave me fuel to keep going. Um, so we did our first mailing was in Culberson County, Texas, where we first bought a property. And back then you were able to buy those properties for about 75 to $100 an acre, and you can usually sell them for around $500 an acre on terms. Um, so I don't remember the details of my second deal or my third deal because they are all really small and piddly along the way. But we just started selling those desert squares, and we found buyers. Um, and we did actually get kind of a cool break early on. We I got in contact with somebody, I think through Facebook, who lived out in West Texas, in Midland, Odessa. He was kind of a real estate investor, but he was more of an oil and gas tycoon. And he had this vision of, he believes in the future. I don't know if he still believes this, but at the time, he believed that in the future, West Texas was going to be nothing but solar farms. And it was going to generate all of the energy for the entire United States. And he said the only thing that keeps that from happening is scarcity of water, because effectively solar farms are just generated, they heat up water to steam runs the turbine, so all of them need water. So his idea was, I'm going to buy a patchwork of land all over West Texas, and eventually these solar farms that start going in are going to have to buy these properties from me in order to run water through them.
Wow.
And it was kind of this bizarre idea, but what I loved is he said, "Hey, I'll pay $500 an acre for anything you find in this county."
Wow.
So I was buying it $100 an acre. I had a buyer lined up at $500 an acre, and I just went off. So every single deal we could get, and we were buying, 5, 6, 7, 8 deals at a time and just flipping them before the ink was dry. We were literally just mailing our original deeds with the new deed to him over, and he would do all the filing and everything for us, and then he would just cut us a check. So we were able to just get a lot of really good, easy income early on flipping to this guy. There was still a bunch of headache associated with it. He wasn't always reliable and whatnot, but um, it seemed like a money printing machine. Yeah, I think one time in my construction career had I gotten a $10,000 check when I had like sold and managed a big project. And I remember when I handed him a stack of papers and he handed me $26,000, and I was like, "This is insane," you know.
Right.
Um, yeah, just really powerful experience working with him.
That's life-changing stuff for sure.
Yeah.
So, what would you say, like, what type of deal is your bread and butter now? I'm assuming that you are that you've evolved from desert squares, or maybe you're still doing that, but what does your bread and butter look like now?
Um, I really try to look at the land that we buy and sell now as like a portfolio. So I know a lot of land investors, and probably land investors much smarter than me, just pick a thing and that's what they do, and they get really good at that thing. Um, because over the past whatever 4 or 5 years we've been doing this, I've worked all over the country from big acreage, small acreage, infill lots, desert squares. I've kind of done everything. We know how to manage pretty much everything. So I still love small deals. Small towns in Texas, you can still buy a quarter-acre lot for $1,000 and sell it for 15 to $20,000 in a week. We still love those deals. I still like desert, West Texas properties. We just kind of do bigger ones now. So you can buy something. We did a deal last year where we bought it for 64,000 and sold it for 199,000. And it was just a desert square in Texas. You can still get a bunch of money working in the desert. So we still do all sorts of deals. I have refocused now to Texas. We at one point were buying and selling in 14 states, and I kind of learned my lesson. You get spread too thin when you're working a really wide area, and we encountered states that just weren't real estate friendly or friendly for what we were trying to do, and we never lost money, but we made mistakes insofar as some deals were less profitable or took longer than we wanted to sell. So we're like, let's just bring it back home to Texas. So now we work pretty much what I call secondary or tertiary markets. Your hour and a half, hour and a half outside of a major city, in small towns, buying and selling lots, as well as the big acreage in West Texas, but also now we're doing subdivisions, different forced depreciation strategies on larger lots. And I like by treating it as a portfolio, those infill lots, those seem to turn and burn really quickly. I really love notes. Those are great for selling notes. I love to have a predictable, steady income flowing into my business every month. Then I see those larger acreage properties, kind of a splash income. You get one or two big sales a month that really kind of move the needle in your business. And then our development projects are one or two a year. But one or two a year that could feed a family of four for a year,
Absolutely.
so you only really need one or two of those going at a time. So it spreads your risk out. You kind of always have transactions. You always have either little small ones going through or a big one going through. And it just keeps it feeling much more regular and predictable in our business, which is kind of what I think most land investors are trying to get to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that, anyone listening to this that has done any type of entrepreneurial um, endeavor can say there's this roller coaster, right? Of like you can get really high profits and have like great seasons of bounty, and then you have periods where like nothing happens. And so it's incredible to hear how you're kind of mitigating that by getting a little bit more consistency just by spreading it out through the different types of deals that you do. So that's
Mhm.
really, really cool. I'm curious, what type of buyer are you finding as buying a desert square? Like, what are they using it for? Do you have any insight?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a funny thing. I would have never guessed it. Now that I've lived in Texas for a while, it's just a Texas thing. Every Texan wants to own land. In somewhere in a safe, they need to have a piece of paper that says I have 5 acres somewhere, even if it's the middle of nowhere. Um, this is something that they always talked about in the Land Geek that I just didn't really believe. They call it man jewelry. Like men just want to own a piece of America. Um, and
Yeah.
I was like, I had never had the urge to really own land before I got into the space. Now it's all I think about, obviously, but back in the day, I was like not concerned with it at all. But yeah, these big properties in West Texas, there's this desire to own land somewhere. And if that's the only affordable option, people will do it. There's a huge Hispanic buyers market, where West Texas kind of reminds them of home. Various parts of South America or Mexico, it's very similar in terrain and difficulty of the environment. Um, there's also this like nostalgic aesthetic or this like inherent um desire to kind of live this cowboy lifestyle once in a while
Mm,
that I'd never known because I'd bought and sold hundreds, I don't know, thousands of acres out in West Texas before I ever went out there. I actually went out there last year, and when I had to like sit and convince people that it was pretty over the phone, even though I'd never been there. But now that I've gone out there, I mean, I get it. Like that last deal I did, we made a really good return on it, but I honestly thought about keeping it. I was like, man, if I could take my kids out here and let them get stuck by a cactus once a year and be in some harsh terrain and like the night sky out there is outstanding. It's unlike anything I'd ever seen before in my life. Um, so yeah, there's actually a ton of reasons, and other people just see it as investments, hunting, um, riding ATVs, dirt bikes. There's all sorts of crazy shenanigans, and then there's also just like three teeth meth heads that are trying to go live out there because that's the only place that they can park a van and live in it. Um,
right.
I don't. It's great. It's kind of endless. I mean, I've sold to all sorts of people.
Very, very cool. So I think that's that definitely speaks to that old adage, like you can't just limit yourself to thinking about what you would want to live on or what fits your lifestyle. Like there's a whole gamut of lifestyles out there that you don't want to sort of impede what they want to do with the property, right? Just leave it open.
Yeah.
So, do you like can you talk about what's one of the largest land deals that you've done?
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm trying to think. I've been kind of a small player in larger deals. For example, I've started this kind of smaller operation. We're really good at marketing and networking, and explaining value in properties. Me and my little sales team. Um, so we've been involved in a few like multi-million-dollar transactions where somebody kind of had the plan of a development in place or they sketched it on the back of a napkin, and we lodged ourselves in there for a smaller percent and just said, hey, I know how to market this and bring it and put it in front of investors, make the connections and get it to the closing table for you with really very little on my effort on my side and almost no cash. um, so scraping 3 to 5% out of a multi-million-dollar deal without contributing any funds is something that my team is kind of gearing up and climbing into more regularly. So I've been a part of bigger deals. The biggest deal that I've like bought and took down, and those are our development deals. Right now we have a subdivision light development project that we did. We're in the process of selling now outside of Dallas in this small town called Sulphur Springs, where we bought 130 acres, cut it into 10-acre lots. We bought it at just under 500,000. It's worth 1.3 ish, 1.4 ish when it's all said and done. Um, so that's probably our biggest, like, we did it nose to tail deal. The biggest flips that we've done, we don't do a lot of big flips comparatively. I mean, I know some people who are flipping $1 million properties and stuff like that. We tend to stay under the $100,000 mark. That West Texas deal is probably the biggest cash flip deal that we've ever done. Because mostly I don't chase those deals as hard. I like to stay under 100,000. It's a lot easier to find buyers for something under 100,000 in the markets that we work. So that's that turnover, that quick return on investment is something that we optimize for in my business. And I found the bigger the deal, the longer you have to hold on to it, the slower your returns, the less often you can flip that money. So if I could flip $2,000 into 18 or $20,000 50 times a year, and my team knows how to handle that transaction really well, I don't really see the need to then move out to something where I have to expend a lot more capital for a lower cash on cash return. Because I really don't like using my money.
Right.
I try to always use somebody else's money, even on small deals. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how we operate. So yeah, we don't chase a lot of big deals because I don't like putting that much capital out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, in terms of raising money, what does your capital raising look like? for these deals?
Um, so so I have a land funding company now. So I actually fund my own deals out of a funding company.
Got it.
We have some complicated structures, a lot of different ways that we're moving money through entities. So the small deals we self fund through a third entity that has access to lines of credit and things like that. Um, when we first started, I had revenue sharing agreements with early investors. Um, so if like you're in this room and you have no money and you're starting, this is a great way to get started. It is something you'll want to get out of as quickly as possible, though. So effectively, I went up to people that I had a few lunches with that really liked whatever, my personality, my haircut, I don't know. And they said, yes, I will entrust you with money. And the deal I negotiated with them was like, you give me a lump sum of money. I can use that money on all things acquisition, mailing, you know, closing at title companies, whatever else, buying the land, all things acquisition can be used out of this pot of money. And then I will sell the properties and we'll share revenue 50-50. So every 50 cents that comes in, you get 50 cents, I get 50 cents. Um, that did not work out in my favor because I had no idea how lucrative in terms of like cash on cash returns it was going to be. So like our first investor, he handed us $15,000 and I thought he was handing me keys to the bank, man. That was a huge amount of money for me. Within 9 months, that turned into $95,000 for him. And he's like, here's some more money for you. So I was like, okay. So he handed me,
Friends and everything.
yeah, and same thing. I have always wanted to um love and support my family, so I allowed them to be early investors. My dad, he handed me a stack of money, and we went through it really quickly, and he got some great returns. And now he kind of looks at it like an ATM. Like I just keep handing him money, and he keeps throwing it back at me. So we've actually had to go through and fire all of our investors now. So all of our capital is either coming from bank lines of credit through our funding company, or if it's a bigger deal and I have a handful of people who I just know I can bring a deal, and if I say this is a good deal, they're going to fund it. And I'll usually work out a custom profit share or a revenue share based on the timeline that I think it'll take to sell that property, any risk associated with it, any improvements we have to do, yada yada yada. So I just have a handful of folks now that know we're good at what we do.
Nice. So you're not actively constantly looking for
No,
capital. Got it.
I'm
So
the opposite. I'm always looking for deals. I
looking
need
for
I need to lend some money. Yeah.
nice, nice. So I always like to ask this question. Let's say that you're out to dinner, you're not around other real estate investors, or you're not in a real estate room, and someone asks you, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that question?
I do some real estate stuff. I try to be as vague as possible. For two reasons. I think people get this connotation that I'm like super wealthy or something, and then I start getting treated differently in groups, which I don't like. Um, one, and two, get really excited. So if somebody shows like any interest in what I do, I don't shut up for the next 30 minutes to an hour. And I'm like talking about, man, I cleaned up title on this property so good. I did that. And they're just like, they have no idea. They think I'm out of my freaking mind. Um, so I tend to just be really, I do a little real estate. I just do a little real estate stuff. And we live really low profile life. So it's not like we look fancy or anything like that. Um, yeah, I try to be pretty vague.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So, um, where do you see the market going now, and how do you plan to shift in your business to meet the market and thrive in the upcoming changes the market is going to be presenting us with?
Yeah. We're picky when we buy, pickier than we used to be. We did go through what I call my reckless buying phase. where I was just like, everything sells overnight, in 2020 or 2021. It was just like I was buying and selling the ugliest, trashiest properties in such a short period of time, that I felt invincible. So, we went through this period where we bought some boogers and overpaid for stuff. And I still have stuff in inventory that I just want to get rid of, through this reckless buying cycle. So now um, one, I'm already in the markets and buying the sorts of properties that I consider recession proof, um, because of the price point I stay at, because of the utility of most of the properties I buy, because of our due diligence criteria, right? So we never buy anything that's inaccessible or anything that needs a bunch of work to resell or any of the sort of stuff. They're all very simple, high profit deals. Um, we don't buy any luxury properties. Everything is really like salt of the earth and is going to attract um, the sort of people that are still going to be buying properties in a recession. So a lot of our business model isn't going to change. It's almost all going to be the same. Uh, Things that we are doing now, which we've kind of always done, but we've seen an uptick in, and that's just owner financing. We owner finance a lot more of our properties now, and we're actually like starting to lower our down payments and things like that, as properties are sitting on market longer and longer. So I have started creating a network of note buyers, and I'm trying to educate my sales team on exactly how to structure a note to make it, excuse me, as attractive as possible to a note buyer, so that if I want to offload that note, it's already structured in such a way that I can send it off to my list of buyers and say, "Hey, who wants it?" And have that relationship in place where they'll pick it up. That's good for me because I will still be able to buy and sell the exact same properties that I like to buy and sell at the exact same price points that I like to buy and sell. All I've really done is add this little layer of safety now, where it's like, if all I can do is sell properties on notes, at least I have people now that I can offload those notes to make sure that we're never in like a cash flow issue. Or if I do want to liquidate some portion of my note portfolio or something like that at any given time, I know all of those notes or all of the new notes are structured in such a way that it'll be really easy for me to hand them off and liquidate. Whereas my earlier notes aren't. I have a bunch of notes, dozens of notes that aren't structured in such a way that a note buyer would be keen on buying them. So I don't have an easy off ramp if I need cash for some reason.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So, you mentioned that you are looking to continue to buy properties that you would consider recession proof. You did mention price point under $100,000. What other criteria would you say makes, in your opinion, a property recession proof?
Light on the restrictions. So, at least in Texas, there is a giant underserved market of folks that are looking for affordable housing. So a lot of our properties, we try to buy at a price point that would be affordable for somebody who's just struggling to buy a regular home, or is just looking for a place for a mobile home or an RV or something like that. Um, at our price point, you can get a lot of cash buyers, a lot of like the contractor or blue collar working class. And that class isn't going to shrink, it's going to grow in a recession. You're just going to have more people that are having a harder time getting into the standard single family home market, which is already nuts in Texas. And they're just going to go to look for more affordable housing. So we have relationships with like manufactured home builders, mobile home, repo guys, stuff like that. So that in most of these markets that we work over and over again, um, that's what we're bringing to market is stuff that is just going to be maybe even more in demand in a recession and not less in demand.
Yeah, that is super smart. That's really good stuff. Um, so, what would you say are the most important skills to have in the land industry?
Um, Thick skin, for me at least. I have a I have a mentality where I'm not really scared off from doing anything. Maybe this isn't for everybody, but um, I've chased a lot of unicorns, kind of big deals, or splash amounts of income, or started various side businesses associated with land. And what I ran into, I mean, even just, we'll take it back to just running a land business, scaling a land business, not being afraid to make mistakes, making mistakes and then fixing them. It just takes thick skin. It just takes knowing that you're going to make a bunch of mistakes. At least for me, I have never been the sort of person who would, and this isn't shade for anyone who's done it, but like, I would never be the sort of person to like spend $50,000 to hire a guru or something like that. That's literally going to hold my hand and walk me through deals. I felt if I was willing to go make mistakes in this industry, it would be really hard to lose money. But it is really easy to give up, and I have seen a lot of that. I have seen people sink I met someone a few months ago that had spent over $60,000 between coaching programs and individually working with mentors and gurus and stuff like that, who had not flipped a single deal and then walked away.
Wow.
Nuts, yeah. So when you're moving into a more difficult market, which we are, I mean, we're already in it. I don't know. I don't think it's some future thing. I think it could get worse, but I think we're already in it. It's just going to be harder, and especially with how many more people are moving into the space all the time, it really has thrown off market value all over the place. Like that first county I worked in when I started, I was buying lots for 75 to $100 an acre. I had to leave because people who didn't understand the value of that market were sending offers above retail. They were sending offers at $600-700 an acre.
Yep.
So they would go through and they'd buy all these properties that they could only lose money on. And then they'd be like, what did I do? And then they would quit. But all of that would really mess with the sellers, because they would think all of a sudden their properties are now worth above retail value, or that there's this huge flurry of people actively trying to buy them. Now that I know they're really valuable. And ultimately, it's just thrown a lot of chaos into the industry. But I like it. I don't know. I like chaos. I like it being difficult. I like competition. I like that the harder it gets, the more people quit. If you are going to survive, you do have to have that thick skin. You have to be able to get up when you're knocked down. You have to be able to not feel bad and go crying when you make a mistake. Just, it's education. I haven't lost a dime in land investing, but I spent whatever $80,000 on my college education I don't use. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, that's huge. Just being able to pull the trigger too. For me, a lot of people that I know, and I suffered from it when I started, just don't start. They don't do. They just plan or think, and there's no action. So if you can take action and not be afraid when you hit your head against the wall, I mean, I think you'd be fine. I think you can do most jobs like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a winning combination. I think, and I'm guilty of this too, different parts of my development, it feels so good to like learn and be thinking about things and like, head all day in, either education programs or listening to podcasts, and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this." And at the end of the day, like nothing, like no needle has moved whatsoever, like until you
Mhm.
take action. So I really like that philosophy. So shifting gears a little bit, can you talk about which areas or how do you go about targeting areas to do your land deals? How do you say, how do you figure out where you would like to start marketing?
Yeah. So for me, um, I was just chaos. When I started working in Texas, I couldn't lose. Um, I just gotten really good at vetting a property and doing my DD on an area. So it was kind of like, uh, hand me any county and I can go make money in it. Those are just the skills that I had learned. I knew how to do the due diligence and read the comps and call brokers if I was uncertain, and whatever else. So when I was picking counties, I don't really pick new counties anymore. Um, it was just kind of haphazard. I was like, well, I haven't done anything by San Antonio. Let's do that. Well, I live in Dallas. Let's try working around Dallas. I did this West Texas County. Let's do the one next door to it.
Right.
So it was a lot of being really haphazard. There's people much smarter than me, I think, who are like doing this in-depth demographic research and studying population movements and a lot of stuff that I just don't do. I mean, for me, I think you make money on the deal. Um, and honestly, the markets that I've fared the best in, other land investors would look at it by all this other criteria and be like, "Oh, I would never do a deal there." There's this small town in Texas. I won't name it, but it is literally about as podunk as it gets. I think it's like 1,500 people, 2,000 people, something like that. And I've bought and sold 15, 20 lots in there and made hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Nobody would think to mail that area. They just be like, who has money there? Who would do it? Who would buy it? And there's a buyer everywhere.
Right.
Um, and in Texas, it's so speculative even because a lot of people on the coasts know that Texas land is going to be valuable at some point or another, or whatever else. Everybody has these. Like I sell land to Texans, I sell land to Californians, and they're all in the same location or the same rough geographic area. So pretty much it was scattershot while we kind of built out this calendar of counties that we just revisit. Um, and every time we go back to a county, I just know it better. My buyers list is already bigger. My this relationships with the brokers are already established. I'm buying a property now that last year I bought the property like 3 houses away from it. And it's same road, same everything. I probably could sell it to the same guy. So it ends up just my goal as of about a year ago was like, all right, I'm going to pick my counties. I'm just going to work until I die. I don't know. There's no reason to get bigger than that. I know people who work one or two counties and that's it. I know a guy who works one county and has hundreds of notes in this county.
Wow.
Why go anywhere else? He's the king. He's got his little hat on, his crown on. And so my goal is like, I want 12. I want 12 counties that I can't lose in because you really can't lose in Texas. Um, and then I'm just going to work them to death and I'm going to do it over and over again. I'm going to get better and better every year. And I'm going to get those. If you're working the same area over and over again, the likelihood of you hitting that grand slam or getting that killer deal or even just being able to make those smaller deals. Like if you really know a market and you know this property is worth 100,000 and you could sell it tomorrow, buy it for 70. Okay, then it's like your comfort level, your ability to make smaller margins but consistently so that it's still like a huge value to you. All of that stuff increases. The ease of business, your acquisition manager's relationship, buying the properties, having the buyers list, all of it just gets more and more easy. So for me, no new counties.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I think that once you find areas that work for you and you go deep in those areas, you start becoming a specialist in that area. I mean, even from a branding standpoint, people will start recognizing your company's name and people will start realizing like, oh, this is the guy to go to if I want to sell my lot. So I think that that's really super smart. What's your favorite marketing methods on the acquisition side? Are you texting, mailing? What does that look like?
Yeah, we took pretty much a year off almost on acquisitions and we relaunched 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Maybe it wasn't a whole year. We took a huge break because I bought a lot of land in 2021. Um, and I had this huge inventory. And that's when the market started slowing. So all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay. So we got really sharp and focused on sales, but now just texting. Um, our acquisition method is extremely simple. You guys had AJ last week. She's like this again, so much smarter than me. She's just this wizard in numbers and spreadsheets and data and all of this stuff. And our acquisitions is very effective, but it's literally as caveman as it gets. My team goes on and they screen scrape all the data. It's the most current data that you can get. Everything is punched into a list manually, no bots, no nothing. The trick is to get very granular in your offers. Um, and the second thing that I think is really undervalued is just having a good acquisition system and team. Like, I don't think a lot of us really recognize that we're not just competing with each other in price, we're really competing with each other and just how comfortable people feel working with us. Because the difference of selling a property to somebody for $13,000 versus $14,000, and you're really comfortable and confident in this buyer, but this person like kind of misses your calls a lot or aren't very clear with the purchase process or whatever else. Like a lot of the times, I think I just had this yesterday. Okay, yesterday. I don't often take acquisition calls anymore, but every once in a while, when someone just needs a little convincing, they'll throw me on the phone. So I'm talking with this guy, tiny deal, one of my favorites. We're buying it for 1,500. It's worth 18 to 20. Super easy deal. Work the area over. We already know it. I just love these little deals. But this guy he calls us and he's like, "Hey, I want to cancel our contract. Somebody just offered me more for the property." And my acquisition manager was like, "What should I do?" And like, I was kind of a grumpier day for me. So I was like, "You tell that bastard it's under contract. I'm filing it with the county. If he tries to bet, I was like, wait, okay. Oh, just let me talk to him tomorrow when I've had some coffee or whatever." So sure enough, I call him, and there was some title issues that we explained and conveyed, and we're really good at cleaning those up, and we're really confident about how we do that. So I got on the phone with him, and I didn't even have to convince him. I just kind of asked him about his day a little bit, and asked him about my acquisition manager, Delilah, like, how's she treating you? And he's like, "Oh, she is the best. Like, I love talking to her on the phone." I was like, "I know, I pay her hourly. You better hang up sooner, you know?" Just kind of joshed around with him for a little bit. And I was like, "So I hear you kind of want to work with somebody else. You're getting a higher offer." And he's like, "Honestly, I have faith that you guys are actually going to, it's all going to go well with you." So I didn't offer him to go meet the competitor's offer or anything. Just talked for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really undervalued, really understated, especially in this world where everybody's like, just give it to a $5 an hour VA in the Philippines. It doesn't matter if they're English. It doesn't, none of this stuff. Like the personality and the systems and the way that you walk somebody through acquisitions is, I think, as or more valuable than any of the data or any of the like the pricing. I mean, obviously you want all of it to be finely tuned, but that's one thing that separates us from, I think, a lot of land investors. But yeah, right now all we do is texting. I do 2,500 texts a month. Last month we bought 4 properties on 2,400 texts. Our total cost was $1,200 for the entire campaign. One property has, that's one of them. So it'll be a $16,000 profit on that one. We have another one we got under contract for $60,000. The market value is about $150,000 on that property. We have another one that's a tiny one, kind of like 1,500, worth $9. And another one we're working on is a commercial deal. It's a $12,000 purchase, and it'd be worth like $45,000.
Nice. So that's quite a big return on your marketing dollars. So what is your seller nurturing process look like? If you're doing text messages, do you have a drip campaign? What does all of that look like for you?
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to be party to a small investor group where this is how easy acquisitions are for me right now. Somebody does the text messaging for me, and they do the initial disqualification, because these are all cold text messages. We're not mailing first and then texting or any of this sort of stuff. It's just a text message. "Hey, we want to buy your property in this county, this many acres." Boom. They excuse me, they will ask those qualifying questions. Our list is priced. So if they ask like how much you're wanting it and they want retail, it's automatically disqualified. So we get handed a couple fistfuls of loosely qualified leads. My acquisition manager, her responsibility is to immediately reach out. So we have like a couple text templates that are just like, "Hi, I'm Delilah, just getting in contact with you about this property. Let's schedule a call." She has to make a phone call within 24 hours. And all we're really doing in that initial conversation is some loose qualification, trying to understand if they want market value for their property, or if they're just like, "Give me an offer," or whatever. Then she brings it to me still. This is something I still do because you buy 4 to 6 to 8 properties a month. It's really all you need to do to run a really good business. So then I'll just generate an offer really quickly based off a lot of the comp research, which is front loaded. When they build the lists, all that all that research is done. So it takes me about 2 to 3 minutes to go in and write an offer on that individual property. Um, then she submits the offer. She handles really the negotiations, the haggling. Once we get it under contract, we order a due diligence and title report. Those are usually back in 2 or 3 days. We identify title or due diligence issues. If all that stuff checks out, we send it to title, or we self-close. We still self-close deals.
Nice. Very good. So, at what point of your evolution in your business did you say, okay, I'm going to hire an acquisitions manager?
Um, Really, it was when I realized I couldn't grow the business without it. For my business partner, she handles a lot of the like back end affairs, like running QuickBooks, fine, just making sure I'm not missing a bunch of stuff, which I always am. So she's extremely valuable. Um, but it was me on the phone all the time, on the acquisition side, on the sales side, and I just one there's a burnout that comes with it when you're the guy picking up the phone all the time, upset person trying to find the property they can't get there, which is chronic in West Texas. And then you're also the guy working with the title company or the seller's trying to back out. Like, I just realized if I don't bring somebody in at this point, I'm not gonna have time to build systems to grow, and I'm just gonna get burnt out. I was already burnt out. When we started this business, I was a full-time construction project manager and I was moonlighting at restaurants at night. So I was already working a 60 to 80 hour week, and I was trying to do this in my spare time. I'd literally be like taking an order at a table at a restaurant, my phone would start ringing, and I didn't know if it was a construction project I had going on in Flower Mound. I had one, I remember a specific instance, a construction project in Flower Mound that's going sideways, or is it someone who's trying to buy or sell land? And I would just literally walk away from tables and go in the bathroom and take the call and stuff like that. Um, so I knew, like, I had sunk everything into this. I knew I was pot committed. So I was like, why not bring somebody in? And as soon as I was able to, well, I went through experience of making a bad hire that cost us money and deals. But then I found the right person, the right situation with the perfect personality, and realized I can go back to focusing on systems and scaling. And it was just like that, this huge weight off my shoulder. I wasn't always on the phone. I was able to like start seeing more clearly, start looking at the bones of the business. Um, and we couldn't afford them when we hired them. I just knew that this was a necessary component to afford to hire somebody. You had to
Right.
do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Allowing you to work more on your business and in the business, definitely giving you more bandwidth to be able to do that. That's incredible. So, how do you go about doing your Dispo process? What does that look like in your business?
In this market, you got to be everywhere, right? So you got to be on all the listing platforms. You have to have a good system for vetting and hiring a broker or agent on every deal. We never had agents for a long time. Now they're on every deal. Um, we do paid social media marketing. I spent a lot of money building a brand. I built a really powerful website. Now I've invested a lot of money in our CRM. I have good salespeople. I really just went all out, so that we were getting leads from every source. My team was qualified to vet and nurture those leads effectively. The KPIs were in place correctly so that when they were doing something, they were doing it efficiently. And then the sales come. But there's really no one thing. Really, again, and I hate to go back to it, but the most powerful thing is working a market. Like when people come to me now and they ask me like, how do you get started in land? I just say pick one freaking county. It can be small, but pick one county and just get really good in that county. Do 15 or 20 deals in that county and then see if you really want to go somewhere else. So that's a lot of it now too. It's like I just go back to the same broker. I go back to the same agent. But it's everything now. In this market, it's everything. I don't think there's a secret. Um, the secret's just doing everything well. I know a lot of land investors that pump a bunch of money into marketing, or they're on all the listing platforms, but they don't have a quality CRM. They've been using the same follow-up campaign for years. They don't have a sales team that actually knows how to pick up the phone and call, a sales team that actually knows how to drive somebody to a purchase.
Right. Right. So
And a
what,
big thing, sorry, one last thing on
yeah.
that is I have a bunch of marketing now that's geared towards selling land as an investment, a hedge against inflation, a land bank, etc. So on these bigger deals, I can attract buyers that aren't going to go use it right away. Somebody who just, I know I can park my money here. There's a huge need for that, and land is a very safe investment. So a lot of our marketing goes towards that buyer because they come through and buy six, you know.
Right. Right. That's really, really good insight. So, um, what are your favorite tools, like for CRMs and running comps and that kind of thing? What are some of your favorite tools, technology wise in the business?
Um, CRM, we use Follow Up Boss. Uh, Extremely powerful. It's not built for land investors, so it's maybe not the best for someone getting started. Jesse Kwong with REI Conversion, he has a really killer CRM that he put together. Really cool. I always tell new investors to go check that guy out. He does awesome stuff over there, super affordable. He'd be a great guy to have on here as well.
Nice.
But Follow Up Boss, if you have the ability to be very patient, and you are tech savvy, you can build that into an extremely powerful system. We operate not only our mailings, our acquisitions, our disposition, but our lending company, our development company, our marketing company, all this stuff operates out of Follow Up Boss. It's like a single dashboard that I've put in place. Um, and specifically on the disposition side, it has a pixel that you install on your website so you can monitor what people are doing when they're adding stuff to a shopping cart or when they're coming back to see the property details of a specific property over and over again. It's just extremely potent in a world now where this you have to be like a ninja in sales if you're going to close things quickly. Um, People are shy with money right now, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Um, so yeah, the Follow Up Boss is the CRM that I love. Um, I don't buy lists. I used to use data tree and stuff like that. I thought all of those just weren't it for me. I got a bunch of bad info, spent a bunch of money on terrible data. So like comps for us are really dummy, Zillow, Redfin, the land websites, but really, again, working the same areas and over again. Like almost anywhere in Texas within an hour of a city, the land's worth 10,000 an acre. I mean, it's simple. Um, but yeah, then again, it's relationships with realtors and brokers. Like if I ever am scratching my head, like I just don't know, call. There's resources. Every city's got a resource. A lot of us are just shy to do it, or we think that this business only exists online. That's actually a really pivotal part of my business now is I have not only trained my acquisition manager to acquire land, but she does all of the realtor stuff for me. She does all of the networking, meeting new people, not only listing properties with them, but asking like who are the local real estate investors that I should know here? Who's a builder? Who's going to want to buy this and build a spec home on it, and getting all of these relationships neatly organized into our CRM with tags and the appropriate hyperlinks associated with deal cards, associated with counties, so that when we go back next year, nobody's forgotten. We didn't waste a phone call with a broker. It's the data is stored and well organized. So for us in our growth trajectory, we try to double every year. So it's really important for us to fine tune that data. Same thing on sales. If we're going back to the same county over and over again, I better know who in my list actually buys land in that county. My sales team better know how to re-engage a conversation that ended last year, pick it right back up this year.
Right.
Um, I really like MapRight. That's a really cool service. MapRight is great for us in a lot of our platforms, specifically lending. People will bring to us a lending deal. It allows us to create an individual map over it, map out the comps on it, all this sort of like fun details so that when I review a property and I hand it to my partner to then underwrite, he's well equipped and it saves him time. That's a great tool. Also, I really like that feature where you can get photos of a property and then you pin them on the property.
Oh yeah.
So you can share that map with somebody and they can stand, quote unquote, in the field, and look at the property from the angles that the photos are taken. Um, there's I'm trying to think what else. I mean, we've really tried to cut out a lot of junk. This last year I went through and I just slashed out all the services that weren't adding value.
Yep.
Klaviyo is our email marketing tool. That's really powerful for list segmentation. That's something that we nurture and value very, very highly in our business. For websites, we use Shopify. Our goal is to really try to marry e-commerce to the real estate industry. That's the trend. That's where I think people need to have their mindset if they're looking to, flip a lot of land effectively. And then within that, like website stuff, there's just a bunch of smaller tools that we use in there. Like I have an AI chat service now for my website. So instead of it being like a chat bot or somebody messages you and they have to wait 2 hours for my sales team to notice that someone messaged us or something, it's going to engage with them and qualify them and answer some of their simple questions for them. And dang, I just had one more and I forgot. Oh, when you have a growing team, Slack, like
Yes. Big times.
Slack, Slack and the integrations that you can use with Slack are extremely powerful. Like my team is managed using tasks and follow-up boss. So, but instead of having to switch back and forth, I just created a channel called task. And if you go in there and you tag somebody, it automatically generates a task for them and follow-up boss. So every time like I find myself doing something and it's annoying and it makes me not want to do it, my first thought is automate. How can we automate this?
Love it.
So for me, I love it. I love automation. I love using Zapier and Make. And now I have so many automation projects. I just have an automator on staff pretty much that I just have a running list of crap that I don't want to ever do in my business ever again, or I don't want to trust someone else to do it, or we dropped the ball on it too many times, trusting an individual, and we're just getting rid of all those things. The headache with that is automation always breaks. So you really have to have somebody who knows it. So, here's a good piece of advice. If you're automating a part of your business, make that automator record a video of how the heck it works. Like if you don't know what's happening, because it will break, whatever it is, it's going to break and you're going to have to go in there and try to fix it.
That's brilliant. Get a
Yeah.
video and have an automator, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Put it on a spreadsheet. Yeah. I mean, I've automated really ridiculous complex tasks, for $100, $150.
wow.
Somebody else paying $200 a month to do, and
Right.
now it's a no-brainer. Forever, it just seems so scary. Like, what is automation? But it's just trigger what action you want to get done. And then if you hire somebody who knows how to do it, you don't have to rely on just like the native integrations in Zapier or Make. You can have them do custom API calls and get really crazy.
Very cool. How do you go about finding, like, how did you find your automator?
So I had some unsuccessful attempts. I've had automators in the past, and after a couple months, it would go stale, or they'd fizzle out, or I wouldn't have enough work for them, or they would just disappear. I don't know. I have a marketing team now who finds those people for me. I think they mostly use Upwork.
Got it. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. And that leads me to my next. I did want to chat with you about your headline for tonight's call was so interesting to me, bringing real estate into the e-commerce world. And
Mhm.
so, can you talk a little bit about like what were some of your biggest aha moments around that? And then how are you really leaning into e-commerce with real estate?
Mhm. Yeah. So, I was telling you, I bought all this land in 2021. That was kind of heaping up on me. And I realized one day I was just scrolling through my numbers and I was like, I have $4 million worth of land sitting in inventory. We were still selling a bunch, but we were buying so much. I just realized, like, holy crap, all of my avenues for disposition are unstable. We were selling most of our land through Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for a long time. And then slowly but surely, there was there was no way to really delegate it effectively that I could ever really get to stick more than a month or two at a time with any efficacy. Um, my account got suspended one time, and I was like, holy crap, I make a ton of money through that account. What am I going to do? Then Craigslist, you can't even post on anymore. Lands.com has been like, most of the listing services have been really not productive for me. I've definitely spent more money than I've made in all of those listing services. And now we have agents and brokers, which are helping a lot. But at the time, I was like, holy crap, I don't know what I'm going to do if Facebook falls on me. How am I
Right.
going to sell my land?
Right.
So I ended up hiring some professional marketers into my business. I completely reinvigorated my website. I put it on the Shopify platform. We came out with a unique reservation process where someone can go reserve a property on our website for 48 hours for $100. And it's modeled after a Tesla. Like when we went to go buy our Tesla, you go in there and you go design one, and they're like, all right, give us $100. And we're like, what? This is a $60,000, whatever, but that locks in, like, it's a small commitment to the purchase process, and that's all of e-commerce is like, how can I get a little bit of your trust, a little bit of your security, and then that tiniest bit of commitment. And then if you like the product and our sales process is clear to you, it goes really smoothly after that. So we started doing a bunch of paid social media marketing. We did some guerrilla marketing, like sponsoring YouTubers. Who was it? Somebody mentioned Costilla County. We were buying and selling a lot of Costilla County land for a while, and I sponsored this guy who was a small YouTuber who did like off-grid living and stuff like that. And he had a really small but like really tight audience. I paid him $100. He did a small like 30-second promo on his website, and we sold properties on that. We're still getting leads off that. That was like 2 years ago. I don't
Wow.
even have Costilla properties anymore.
Wow.
So we started just trying to get really creative with how we can grow our brand, get awareness, get people on our website. And we designed a system where I was like, man, I really think that I could sell land in my sleep. Like, I could have somebody come to my website and buy a property, and they get automatically sent the form. They fill the form out. That gets sent over to my my lead sales guy. He generates the contract. That gets sent. So I was like, I think I finally did it. And then sure enough, within a couple weeks, I woke up and I signed a contract for a piece of land. Whole
Wow.
transaction was done without me. And the person was a lead that came off of a paid social media ad and followed our process exactly, reserved the property, got the form, filled out the form, got the contract drafted, signed it, paid the down payment, got the doc fee, and boom. And I was like, holy crap, this is powerful. So I just kept going with it. How I started trying to mimic other successful businesses that are similar to our industry. Carvana, maybe not a great example now, they're going into bankruptcy, but we monitored how they were selling cars, right? I mean, it's very comparable to a lot of our properties in terms of price point, 20, 30, 40, up to $100,000. They had complexity way beyond ours, which is like, how do you get a car that's in whatever, Nashville, Tennessee, bought online and transferred over to Dallas or whatever. We have what I call like digital logistics in our business. Like, how do you get a contract signed? How do you collect the money? How do you get it to a title company? How do you do the follow-up? We have like digital logistics in our industry. So I just kept looking at all the processes in our sales side. I tried to simplify as much as possible. I tried to make it predictable for a buyer with no experience buying land, because most of our clients did their first real estate transaction with us, and a lot of them did their second real estate transaction with us too, which I'm proud of.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then once we had the website, the systems, all that stuff clearly defined, all the unique, like the cool follow-up and tracking methodology down, the drip campaigns, the text message campaigns, the well-educated sales team. Then it was like, how do I create something where I can just turn up the dial? How can I get more eyes on my website? Optimizing for SEO, in my opinion, is just, you're not going to win that way. There's no way for me to go beat out the top 10 competitors and be on the first page of Google without just spending through the nose and not having a profitable company. So I was like, all right, we'll do social media. It's very affordable. I started and it was not fun. Month after month, I was throwing money away working with professional marketers because they are used to e-commerce. They're like, we are great at selling shirts and coffee mugs and frisbees and crap like that. But you're trying to have us sell land in West Texas. It's like,
Right.
so it was a steep learning curve. But after a few months of, sharpening that saw, right, and refining, improving, getting our lead costs down, getting our lead quality up, we started to figure it out. I'm sorry, I'm running out of voice here. We started to figure out that there's specific emotions and sentiments that motivate land buyers. This is just a great sales tip in general. Like when somebody calls you and asks about the details of a property, I don't even answer it. Like if I'm taking those, this is why I train my sales team. Don't even answer them. Ask them, why are you looking to buy property? Well, I need a place for horses. Okay, well, that's part of the answer. What's their mission? What's their objective? What's their goal? Well, yeah, okay, cool. Have you been into horses for a while? You learn a little bit more about. All of a sudden, you find out that their passion is horses, and the only thing separating them from having the 20 horses or whatever that they want is they need 10 acres to put them on. All of a sudden, now you know and understand their intention, their motivation, and the way that you can actually speak with them on a emotional level to motivate them to close on that purchase. Well, same thing in advertising, right? Like a Coke commercial, they don't just hold up a Coke and say, Coke's good. They're like, that feeling when you open a Coke or a can of beer or whatever. The same thing in real estate. So we tried to isolate and identify the emotions behind what motivates people to buy land. And then we optimized for those emotions. So, like, really big sentiment right now that we're playing towards is this investment sentiment. Like, people, I mean, my dad, he lives in my backyard. He's got a small house there. He lost a bunch of money in the stock market. He realizes that these traditional investment tools aren't operating the way that they're supposed to, or they're not yielding the way that they're supposed to. And all of a sudden, what he thought were safe assets aren't safe assets. In the new generation who thought like crypto was the key, or stacking up NFTs left and right, dude, check out my ape. They're realizing that's not it either. And there's just like this really simple thing. Like, this is an industry I monitor. Gold, like those industries that those people that are like invest in gold, buy and sell gold. Those are the same people I want in my client list. Those are the same people where I can say, all right, gold's good, right? But can you go ride an ATV on gold? Can you go run horses on gold? This is as safe as gold in many ways. I mean, even safer. No one can go steal that. No one can go
Right.
run and grab your land out of your safe, Um, so anyways, yeah, long story short, we isolated all of these different emotions that people use that motivate people to buy land. And we just sharpened the saw month after month. We got really good at knowing when to launch and kill ad campaigns to optimize ad spend. And then I do these like sneaky bumps where I'll go in and I'll sponsor a podcast. I'll put my information somewhere where I know our buyers live, that are in like industries that are adjacent to ours. And then a lot of it's just, like I said, knowing that sales process. Most people don't. Like, if I go to a land investor, I'm like, what's your sales process? They're like, well, we kind of like email them and call them a little bit until we get a contract. And then, we sit there and we go back and forth about what title company we're going to send it to. And it's like, no, man, people need to know. Because what I found is when I started tracking people on my website, they would go to my website, they look at the same property over and over again, which means they know they want to buy it. They would do it, they would make like they would add it, they go to reserve it, they'd go to that reservation page and they wouldn't go any further. And I was like, what is going on? I know this person wants the land. Well, it's because there
Right.
was nothing in there that was like, this is what happens. Or if it was too vague. Like, it made sense to me. I was like, yeah, then we send it to title. And they're like, what does that mean? I've never bought land before. You don't send a car to title. You don't send, a 12 pack of beer to title. What does this mean? So you really have to get granular. People aren't going to want to work with you if they don't know what's next. They
Yeah,
just
that's a
don't.
really good point.
They need to be very confident on what the next step is each step of the way. And most people don't have that on the first step.
That is really incredible. Yes, I mean, so much to unpack with that. I wish that we had another hour. I am interested in hearing your thoughts about um, AI and how you are using AI and what you think the future will be for AI when it comes to land investing.
Um, it's pretty limitless. I've already used it in a few different ways. Some I'll keep secret, but I will cue people into one thing, maybe very powerful. There is a Chat GPT add-on to Google Sheets.
Ah,
I'll leave that with you. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, simple stuff, ad copy, even comping. I mean, a lot of that like stuff can be done. And in fact, I don't know. I saw this post. This isn't mine, but I saw this post on Facebook where you could say, "Hey, Chat GPT, write ad copy for the property at this GPS coordinate," and you just share the GPS coordinate, and look, it'll know the terrain and write specific ad copy over the terrain of that property. Um,
that's incredible.
yeah, it's going to be limitless if you are in the points in your business where you'll know how to leverage it. That's kind of the separating factor. I know a handful of land investors who are really good and really quiet, who are doing really well with it. Um, the reason I think they're quiet about it is because, if you're the first one to do it for the first few months, it's a good spot to be in.
For sure.
Um, but it's going to change a lot of things. Fundamentally, it's not going to change most things. I mean, you're still going to have to call somebody. Like that's again, like that's where the money's made. Like I can't go back to that enough. Like having the streamlined process on the sales side really does help, but it doesn't. Like half of our sales don't go through our website. It's still like, how do you communicate? How do you find out why people either want to buy land or how they want to sell land? I think the best real estate investors are legitimately seeking to solve problems for people. Like, I feel most fulfilled in a land deal when all parties walk away from the table very happy. The person I bought it from is excited because they didn't know how to sell it, because they had to convince their uncle in Omaha to sign off on it too, because he partially owned it or whatever else. Um, and then I'm happy because I got it at a discount. They're happy because they finally got it sold. They never thought they'd even be able to sell it. And the person that I sold it to is happy because I sold it even below retail. And it was like, I've sold to a lot of people now that younger generations that never thought they'd be able to own anything. They grow up and fully are bought into this culture that you're never going to own your car. You're always going to have a car payment. You're never going to own the furniture you sleep on because you got it from cons or rent a share or whatever else. Even their groceries, people are like, everything's I mean, we leverage it. We chop up and do monthly payments for our properties and things like that. Um, but the idea of buying a single family home, which is usually the only real estate purchase that anyone makes in their life, is getting so far out of reach that
Yep.
there's this huge appetite for somebody to just own something tangible that's not going to disappear or get used up. It's not a vacuum cleaner that's going to break down. It's not a car that's going to have the engine explode. It's something that's actually tangible, real asset. Sorry, I'm talking too much again, but like
Right.
that's really really powerful. So like as long as you have that point of view where you're trying to solve problems, you're trying to help people every step of the way, that's how a real estate investor is actually a good thing in this world and a necessary part. I regularly have moral issues like this deal that we just got last month. We're buying it for 60. It's got this huge spread on it. Like part of me is like, I just want to call that lady and be like, hey, I love you. Just go talk to a broker. I don't want to do this to you. Like it would break her heart if she found out that I made $100,000 on this property, But at the same time, would she have ever sold it? Would she, what would have happened? Would somebody else just come in and do, I don't know, So, but I do always have this moral quandary in our industry because we are kind of looked at as if we're whatever kind of bottom feeders or scummy or kind of like used car salesmen or whatever else. But I have been in plenty of, I would say more of my deals than not, everybody has been happy in the entire transaction. First side, back side, whatever. Um, so that's never going to leave our industry. We're always going to be people. It's always going to be a people industry. So AI is going to do a lot of heavy lifting at some point for us. But the interesting part is that's all going to eventually be accessible to everybody. So you can only be at the front of that train for so long. So in 3 months, when Chat GPT is writing ad copy for everybody and all the ad copyists lost their job, I'm still going to be in the same spot. everybody else is going to be on a level playing field. So the things that already distinguish my business are just going to continue to distinguish my business. Delilah, having a Delilah. You guys don't have a Delilah. I have a Delilah, and she closes deals. You know, she knows how to talk to people. Old men love talking to her, and that's who we buy most of our land from. So
That is
it's
awesome.
it's a people business.
Yeah, yeah, through and through. At the end of the day, fundamentally, it's a people business. And you said so many incredible uh, nuggets of gold in that last section. But
Tirade.
well, I think it's awesome because it goes back to what you were saying and how find what is the emotions and sentiments, and that stems from what problems do they have, right? Or what are they looking to achieve, or whatever it is. So I think that is absolutely incredible. I do want to thank you so much for giving to us today. You've been so generous. How can we give back to you right now? What resources or connections are you looking for currently?
Just PayPal me, just cash. No. What do I do? I like funding deals. So if you guys got deals you can't pay for, or maybe it's the big one that you don't have cash for yet, I partner in developments, I partner in flips, I fund deals. My marketing company, we do a monthly marketing service for land investors. I have website templates. So if you want to have like pretty much the same outfit that I have for disposition side of your business, I sell that. You had AJ last week who does like all things acquisition. She could pretty much create an acquisition business for you. I'm in many ways her counterpart. If you come to me and all you have is an acquisition side to your business, from logos to Facebook to branding kits to your website to setting up a CRM to setting KPIs in your disposition side of your business, my team can help you with all that. And also, I just like networking, man. I like meeting cool new people. If you learn something from me and you have something you think you could teach me, give me a call. I'm a sponge.
Love it. I love it. And how can people find you? How can they get in touch with you?
MySpace. No.
MySpace.
No, I what email address is best? You can, if you want to email me, you can email me at I'll put it in the chat too, but it's hello@primelandbuyer.com. I think that's right. I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook and message me there. That's probably the best way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Partnerfunding.com. He also has primelandexchange.com /pages/partner-services. So you can check that out as well. Those are in the chat. Logan, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Thank you for joining us tonight. Again, you can catch the replay of this inside the group, and really looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Logan, thanks so much, and everyone be great. Have a great week, and we'll catch you in the next one. If you're interested in hearing from other 6- and 7-figure land flippers about how they've built and run their businesses, then check out my group, OnlyLandFans, where I do a live interview each week inside the group. You can grab that link at the description below. Until then, be great, have a great week, and catch you in the next one.